Adventure for Kids, Taking Down the Fire Monster, Adventure Stories for Kids. Written by Jeff Child, narrated by John H. Feskins. Introduction. Everything seems peaceful in Strayville, a town with only a handful of people. But evil visits the town and takes down the beautiful home of a lovely couple. Despite the villagers' accusation, Vicente and Bethany take on the enemy that incinerated their home. The newlyweds won't let this wicked creature take their future away anymore, and are confronted with the forces of nature as they search for their nemesis, a fire monster. Listen to the engaging story of a couple who, after losing their reputation and everything else, only have each other left. They set out on an adventure to eliminate the region's threat and help each other in time of need. Chapter 1. The Wedding. Strayville was a classy place, so it was to be expected that the wedding would have some class as well. The villagers didn't have much to do in town, so to take away the boredom, the mayor made sure everyone was involved in this unusual event. Spinsters made beautiful clothes, bakers prepared bread and cakes to the best of their ability, and carpenters provided a sophisticated decor for the wedding couple who would say their vows on the outside altar. Bethany was new in town. She had visited Vicente's hometown several times already and had gotten acquainted with some of the locals. They had met on one of Vicente's travels to the borderlands, when he came to a seminar for cobbler businesses. After dating for several months and keeping long-distance contact with the occasional visit in one area or the other, they decided to get married. While Bethany was slowly stroking her hands over the patterns on her white wedding dress, her face was glowing with happiness when she thought of marrying the man of her dreams. Vicente was gallant and dashing. He respected her and had saved up with his little shoe business for this day. He was everything she was looking for, and now they would finally be sealed together as a couple. Both their parents were going to be present at the wedding. Bethany pondered this big decision and smiled at the girls who were helping her get ready. It was going to be wonderful. Vicente was putting on the clothes for the ritual. He couldn't stop thinking about his fiancée's beauty and her lovely character. The wedding would be fantastic, and the ceremony would be perfect. When it was time, his father came in and told him how proud he was of Vicente for choosing such a devoted and lovely young woman. He congratulated him again and led him to the garden, where a few hundred guests were waiting. He stood there, awaiting his bride. The guests were smiling. They had known Vicente for a while and trusted him, even though they knew little about the girl he was about to marry. When Bethany arrived at the scene, she walked forward with heavy strides, attempting to go along with the wedding music. Vicente smiled, and his wife-to-be smiled back. The couple said their vows and kissed each other. Everyone cheered and threw rice into the air. Then the reception. Vicente and Bethany stood next to each other, holding hands and welcoming everyone at the wedding reception. There were snacks, there was music, and all the villagers celebrated. "Good to see you, Mr. Arcam," Vicente said, when meeting an old gentleman from the outskirts of town. "Mr. and Mrs. Johnston," Vicente said to another couple that shook their hands. "You've found yourself a good one," Mr. Johnston said. "She's beautiful and has a good smile, nice figure, and, well, congratulations, boy." "Thanks," Vicente said. Bethany smiled shyly when Mr. Johnston leaned over and kissed her hand, getting a jealous look from his wife. "Anyway, enjoy the wedding and the rest of your day and the night." "That's enough, honey," Mrs. Johnston said, urging her husband to keep moving. "Hi, Mrs. Wobley," Vicente said to the next guest. And so it continued on for another hour. After that, the cake was cut, some local traditions were followed, and Bethany made sure to throw the flowers into the air to see who would catch the bouquet. Celebrating was long and exhausting, no matter how joyous and socially amusing. When it was over, Bethany was happy. She was married, and the wedding was great. but now it was time to go to their new home. They walked into the street of their house, holding hands along the way, and after Vicente opened the front door, he picked up his wife and carried her inside. "Oh, Vicente," she said, "it looks amazing. I am really excited to live here." Vicente looked proudly at the newly painted window frames, the wooden floor, and the decorative pictures on the walls. Then he put Bethany on the bed and kissed her on the cheek. Bethany leaned back and let herself drop onto the bed, feeling the soft cushions and sheets on the warm blankets. She closed her eyes for a few seconds, imagining her new life and her new future. "I love you," Vicente said, "and I will do whatever it takes to fight for our future." "I know you will," Bethany said, "and I will support you in whatever you do." Chapter 2. Simple Village Life. Bethany was happy in her new village. Vicente treated her well, and they both worked hard in the shoe shop. Their business was doing considerably well, seeing that they had to start from scratch, and that there was only a limited number of people who needed their shoes fixed. Bethany was having fun visiting the bakery, the butcher, and socializing with some of the women in town, although she told Vicente every day how hard it was to get close to them. "They just don't trust me," she said. "They don't know you yet," Vicente answered. "But when they get to know you, just like I did, they will see how wonderful you are. Just give it some time." "Thanks, I'll keep it in mind." That very same day, however, something strange occurred. As Bethany was walking down the street, descending down the sloping hilltop the village was built upon, she saw something she shouldn't have seen, or so she figured when things got worse. "Oh," she uttered, when she looked into the alley behind a few village homes. There he was, the sleaze, the weird guy who got rebuked by his wife, kissing another woman who was cornered against the wall. Was it another woman? Bethany looked closer. Yes, it was. Was this guy cheating on his wife? No wonder she felt the tension at the wedding the day before. Bethany almost wanted to turn away, confused about whether it was her business to get involved or not, or if she should warn Mr. Johnston's wife. She watched for a couple of seconds as Mr. Johnston was kissing the woman she didn't know, and then decided to leave. She turned around the corner and looked back one more time, unsure what to do with this new discovery. But when she looked at them for the last time, Mr. Johnston noticed her and stared Bethany in the eyes. "Uh-oh," Bethany thought. "He noticed that I noticed. This is not good." She hurried back home and told Vicente about it. Vicente didn't know what to say either. He sat back in his chair and thought deeply. After a while, he got up and said, "I am sure a lot of people will claim this is not our concern, but I feel for Mrs. Johnston. She is probably in the illusion that her husband is faithful to her. She needs to know." "You think? I mean, what if Mr. Johnston wants revenge? What if he gets angry at us for telling on him?" "Well, then he shouldn't have cheated on his wife," Vicente said. "If he is dumb enough to cheat, then he should know that sometime he'll get caught. Did you happen to know who it was?" "She had blonde hair and blue eyes. That's all I saw," Bethany said. "It was kind of dark in there, but I recognized Mr. Johnston." Vicente said. "A lot of women have blonde hair and blue eyes in this town. It could be anyone if we just take that description. Oh well, it's most important that Mrs. Johnston knows about it. We will tell her in the morning, okay?" "Let's just go to bed now," Bethany said. "I haven't seen you much today." Chapter 3. Burn, Burn. The next morning, Vicente was up early. His young wife was still in bed. They stayed up pretty late the previous night, but Vicente was determined to get his business going, no matter how enjoyable his marriage was. He went to the shoe shop and started working on a few shoes. "Where did I put the glue?" he asked himself. He looked around, got some nails and other materials, and sorted the leather. The sun was up. It was going to be a bright and lovely day, or so he thought. Nothing was going on. He would work until Bethany would get up, and then take her to Mrs. Johnston to explain what had happened. But he didn't get the chance, because on the horizon he saw a vague creature. Looking against the sun, Vicente could only make up the silhouette of the monstrous thing that approached the village. "Is that a—" Vicente began mumbling. "No, it can't be." But he was wrong. It was possible, and it was right in front of him. It was a fire monster. Vicente went inside and woke up his wife. "Bethany, hurry, we have to get out of here. There is a fire monster in front of our house." "A what?" she asked, while yawning and rubbing her eyes. "A fire monster. You know, one of those enemies that lives in the lava world, can fly, and shoots fireballs." "What? How did it get over here?" "I don't know, but I want you to be safe, so please leave while I try to fight it." "Why don't you come with me?" Bethany asked. "I don't want it to do anything to our house. We worked so hard to get this place. Now please go. I will be right behind you after I deal with it." "Okay," Bethany said, as she put on a white shirt and a red skirt and ran out the back door. Vicente, however, went to the front door and faced the enemy. It was quiet, dead quiet. Hardly anyone in town had woken up yet, but this awful creature was going to attack them, and Vicente wanted to prevent that. He ran to get a sword from the shed and stood in front of the fire monster. "It's you and me now, fire monster," he said. The fire monster was not impressed. Its countenance had a stern, evil look, penetrating through Vicente's soul. At that moment, it seemed as if the world stood still for a second or two. The two enemies were in a stare-down. But then the fire monster caught fire. Woof! "That's not a good sign," Vicente told himself. And before he knew it, the floating, burning fire monster shot 3 fireballs at him. Pow! 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 Vicente got one of the biggest adrenaline rushes of his life as he dove away and barely evaded the lethal fireballs coming at him. He ended up in a stack of hay next to the barn and counted himself lucky he survived. "You have to do better than that," he yelled. "Come closer so I can stab you." The fire monster didn't move. Instead, its flames became fiercer and bigger, after which it shot another 3 fireballs. Pow! 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 But this time, the fire monster didn't aim at the young newlywed. It aimed at his house. Woof! Vicente's home caught fire. Vicente looked at his enemy and then at his house. He was confused. Should he take out the threat first or save his home? "Ah, you evil fire monster!" he yelled as he stormed at the burning creature. He slashed and missed, stabbed and missed again, and got extremely frustrated because for some reason the fire monster just wouldn't get harmed by his attacks. With desperation in his face, Vicente glanced at his house, which was now burning heavily. Giant flames ascended from their precious place, and he still hadn't killed the assailant. "Die, die, die!" Vicente said as he hacked and slashed away, but to no avail. Then he felt something. It was a drop of water. Vicente held up his hand and looked at the sky. Clouds were coming together quickly. It was going to rain. A lot. He turned to the fire monster, but the fire monster was already disappearing, trying to get away. "Come back," Vicente said while falling on his knees, exhausted from his attempts to slay the fiery monster. "Can't you stand a little rain, huh? Stupid fire monster!" Suddenly, he realized that his home was still burning. He looked back and almost began to cry when he saw his little house slowly burn to the ground. Chapter 4. Mourning Over Losses. Back to the house, Vicente approached his home when it started pouring rain. A big storm commenced. The young man leaned on his sword and saw how pointless it was to try anymore. The rain was already quenching the fire. Vapors of smoke emerged from the home, accompanied by sizzling sounds, falling beams, and pieces of brick. He stood there, unable to figure out what to do, watching the house he had saved up for wither away because of some random fire monster attack. He picked up his sword when he felt a tap on his back. He turned around and saw his beloved wife stand behind him with tears in her eyes. He couldn't say a word, so he dropped his sword again and embraced her. "Our house," she said. "I know," he answered. They were both drenched. The rain had seeped through their clothes, and despite their loss, they kept hugging each other and wouldn't let go until the rain stopped 20 minutes later. They didn't say a word. What was there to be said? They lost everything. Their house, their business, their savings, all gone. The only things they had left were the clothes they were wearing and the sword in the ground. "At least you are unharmed," Bethany said. "I would rather lose the house and our belongings than you." "I came close to killing it," Vicente said. "I almost got that evil monster, but I think stabbing it doesn't work. It shied away when it began to rain, so I think it would be best if we attack it with water." "What are you saying?" Bethany asked. "That we should get rid of it, kill it. If we eliminate the threat, the fire monster will never harm us again." "No," Bethany said. "Why don't we just build a new house? We don't have to risk our lives for some stupid fire monster. We can rebuild our future." "With which materials? There is nothing. That monster took everything away from us. What am I supposed to do?" "I don't know," Bethany cried. "Shall we just see what is left of it?" "Yeah, let's do that." They looked at the smoldering heap of debris that was once their home and came a little closer. It was all burned to the ground. Doors, windows, stairs, furniture. But at least some food was left in the food storage in the cellar. "Good," Vicente said. "We have something to eat." He took the backpack, still intact, from a corner, and stuffed it with as much food as he could. The rain was completely gone. The clouds moved on, and the villagers came out of their homes. They gathered around the fuming ruins and stared at it. The young couple was the center of attention again, but this time it wasn't a good thing. Chapter 5. Determination. "How did this happen?" one of the villagers asked. "We got attacked by a fire monster," Vicente explained. "A fire monster? Aren't those supposed to be from the lava world? And why did it only attack your house? It doesn't make any sense, Vicente." "Well, it started raining and then it fled." The villagers stared for a while. Nothing like this had ever happened before. They were astounded and didn't know what to think. The story was still vague. Why would a fire monster just come and attack this young couple's home? Then Mr. Johnston came forward, stepping over a puddle. "Do you know what I think?" he asked. "I think it was divine justice. There was no fire monster. They just made that up to cover up the fact that lightning has struck their home. Lightning from fate, from karma, whatever you call it. Their house deserved to burn down." "What? That's not true," Vicente said. "Where would you get such a ridiculous idea? I just fought a fire monster, and if it was still here, I could prove it to you." Hold on, one of the villagers said. "Why do you think their home deserved to get burned to the ground? What did they do wrong?" "It's that girl, Bethany," Mr. Johnston said. "She has been unfaithful. I tried to say no, but she kept insisting." "Insisting to do what?" "Yesterday, when I was in my home, she came on to me," Mr. Johnston said. "She wanted a relationship with me. I told her that I was married and that she should respect her wedding vows as well, but she just wouldn't go away. Eventually, I had to push her off, because asking her to leave wasn't enough. She has an adulterous heart, that wicked wench." "No!" Bethany shouted. "You were lying. I never said anything like that. It's because you cheated on your wife." "This is all very disturbing," one of the villagers said. "We don't know what to think anymore." "Why would I ever want something with Mr. Johnston?" Bethany asked, defending herself. "He is old and ugly." A few people laughed and covered their mouths, hardly believing that the young woman had the guts to insult him like that. but Mr. Johnston stayed calm. He knew how to act and how to play it right in front of everyone. "Of course," he said. "She was only after my money. She wanted her own share. She knows I'm loaded." "Liar," Bethany said, while Vicente held her back. One of the villagers decided to get involved. "Divine justice, huh?" he mumbled. "I have to say, Vicente, that it seems rather odd that a fire monster would come out of the lava world, burn down your home and nobody else's, and then disappear again. So far, Mr. Johnston's story seems more plausible." "Come on," Vicente answered. "You know me. I wouldn't make something like this up. And why would my beloved Bethany try to have a relationship with Mr. Johnston?" "We've known you for a while, Vicente, but we don't know anything about this girl. And how do you know that she is the girl she says she is?" Vicente looked at his wife and then looked at the villager again. "I just know," he said. "What do you want me to do to prove that I am right?" "How about showing us the fire monster?" "What? How are we supposed to—" Then Vicente paused for a moment and said, "Very well. We will find the fire monster, kill it, and show you proof of its existence. And when we do, you will all release us of these false accusations and help us rebuild our home." The villager thought for a moment, looked at the others, and said, "I hope we will still hear from you, Vicente. Don't die out there. Good luck." "So we have a deal?" Vicente asked. "Yes." Mr. Johnston was silent. He knew he was guilty, but he didn't want to shift the attention to him again. He hoped everything would be forgotten soon, and that this young couple would simply die in the far, rough terrains of nature. He stepped back and vanished. Others said goodbye to Vicente and Bethany, and watched them walk through the village fences and leave town, on their way to find the fire monster. Chapter 6. Nature's Hardships. "Do you really think we can do this?" Bethany asked. "Of course," Vicente said. "All we have to do is locate that fire monster, which is probably not too hard because it only has a jump start of an hour. We can catch up." "But in which direction?" "Perhaps following these charred rocks will help us find it." Vicente pointed at some burnt rocks, following a trail into the mountains. "Smart. Funny that I didn't think of that," Bethany said. The two lovers followed the trail and found that it led them uphill after some time. They sighed at the sight of the steep mountain and took turns giving each other a little push. Occasionally, Bethany wore the backpack with food, water, and other provisions as well, but Vicente did most of the carrying. The journey was longer than expected. They assumed they were still going into the correct direction, since some of the rocks were charred, obviously affected by the flaming fire monster. But then it got dark. It didn't just get dark because of the time of the day, although that was part of the cause too. It also got dark because thick rain clouds were gathering above their heads. "Oh no," Vicente said. "Not again." However, complaining about it didn't help. The storm was coming, whether they liked it or not. It came with a bang. The sky tore open, and the clouds created a sound of thunder, louder and more penetrating than before. In fact, it was so loud that the young couple put their fingers in their ears each time the tempest cracked. "We must hold on to something," Vicente shouted, trying to make himself audible through the noise of the storm. "I'll grab onto that tree. You can hold on to me." "I think that's a good idea," Bethany shouted back. "Don't let go." "I won't," Vicente yelled, as he held onto a sturdy branch next to him. Bethany put her hands around his waist, and they both sat down, low to the ground, covered in mud and rain. But even though Vicente didn't let go of the branch or his young wife, he was unable to keep the backpack. "No!" he yelled, as he saw the backpack being washed away by the flowing streams of rain that were covering the ground. "Stay here," Bethany shouted. "There's nothing we can do." Vicente had to admit that she was right. If he would let go, they would be taken by the current, and with this rough, rugged mountain, that could be a life-threatening peril. so he kept holding on for his and her life, hoping that they would find the bag later. The storm was over. They were drenched in mud and water. Their clothes, their only clothes, were completely brown now. There wasn't a white speck on Bethany's shirt anymore, and they both took chunks of mud out of their underwear. "Let's find that backpack," Bethany suggested. They went down the mountain and looked for an hour. They split up, looked for traces, but couldn't find anything. It was gone. They had to accept the dire situation they were in. The truth was that they had no food and drinking water. "What are we going to do?" Bethany asked. "Without food or drink, we cannot survive. Shall we go back to the village?" "And risk that we might lose track of the fire monster? I don't think so."
"But there is no point in pursuing some monster if we're going to die. Let's just go back."
"Back to what?" Vicente asked. "We don't have anything. We would end up begging on the streets or moving in with one of our parents."
"Well, I would rather do that," Bethany said.
"Listen," Vicente said, softly grabbing her muddy face with his hands. "I love you, and I do not want to risk losing our lives either. But if we set this straight, the villagers will build a new home for us. The threat will be gone, everybody will believe us, and we will live happily ever after. We have to do this. The village is far anyway. If we would return now, we would get there by tomorrow. No, let's just do this. Maybe we are close. I'll tell you what. If we don't find the fire monster by the end of tomorrow, we'll give up and go back to the village."
"All right then,"
Bethany said. They walked and walked, and even though Vicente was determined after the fight he lost with the fire monster, he glanced over to his wife sometimes and sensed that she was beat. They walked through the night, taking the occasional break and cuddling up under a bush or a tree to stay warm. The next day, they still walked until they felt blisters on their feet. At the beginning of the afternoon, Vicente gave up. "I think I can keep going," he said, "but I noticed you can't take another step. Besides, I have blisters and it's not smart to keep walking for too much longer." "You were right, Bethany. I am sorry. We have to go back to the village."
"I am certain that there will be someone nice enough to take care of us until we can stand on our own feet financially," Bethany said. "It's the right thing to do."
Suddenly, Vicente turned his head towards one of the mountains. "A cave," he said. "Okay, let's try the cave, and if we don't find the fire monster there, we'll really go home. I promise." Chapter 7. The Fire Monster.
"Why do you think the fire monster is in a cave?" Bethany asked.
"Because it is trying to hide from the rain," Vicente answered. "So I think it is the best spot to find it, unless it already went back to the lava world."
"Oh, I don't want to go to the lava world. Let's try the cave and then go home."
They hiked towards the cave. Then Vicente said, "Since it cannot stand the water, perhaps we should find a way to get it wet. My sword had little effect last time I faced this enemy."
"Well, there is a pond over there," Bethany said. "You'll have to lure the fire monster to it."
"Okay, how are we going to—"
"I'll do it,"
Bethany said with determination.
She went inside the cave and shouted, "Hey, stupid fire monster! Are you in there? You didn't even see me in the village, but you burnt down my home, you jerk! Come and get me if you dare!"
That got to it, because within minutes the flaming fire monster came out of the cave looking angry and ferocious, ready to incinerate its challenger. Meanwhile, Vicente was hiding in the reeds and the bushes at the bottom of the hill, next to the pond. The fire monster sped towards Bethany and followed her downhill, shooting fireballs in sequences of 3 each time. It burned down some bushes and plants, but Bethany was too fast. She was panting heavily, but running for her life. When she came to the pond, she didn't hesitate for a second and jumped in. Then, behind the fire monster, Vicente emerged from the reeds and swung his sword. He figured that one more try with his blade wouldn't be such a bad idea, so this was the last time with that weapon. Tsiak! He chopped the fire monster's head off and kicked the fiery fiend into the pond. Bethany quickly swam out, and they both watched the fire monster's body melt away in the water. The head was still lying in the mud and was still burning. "That was a good plan," Vicente admitted, not noticing his wife behind him. He turned around. "Bethany!" he shouted. She had collapsed. The running had made her so tired that she had passed out from fatigue. Chapter 8. A New Future. Vicente became a little emotional when he saw that his beloved spouse had fallen and lost consciousness. He picked up the fire monster's head and shoved it into the back of his shirt, hoping that it would hold. By now, the head wasn't hot anymore, and it didn't harm him in any way. Then he picked up his wife and carried her up the mountain. Vicente didn't want to admit it, and he would never tell her that afterwards, but his wife was heavy. It was difficult to walk such a long distance back to the village while carrying another human being, but he moved on and on. Sometimes he would give himself a little pep talk to keep going. "Come on, Vicente, just a little longer," he told himself. "All you have to do is reach the village." Suddenly, Bethany woke up. "Do you often talk to yourself?" she asked with a smirk on her face. "What? Oh, no. Glad you woke up. We're almost there." "Thank you for carrying me," she said. "It means a lot to me." "You would have done the same thing for me," Vicente said. "No, I wouldn't have. I would have just waited until you would have woken up and then have you walk yourself. Sorry, but that's the honest truth. I'm not that strong." "Makes sense." With a smile on her face, she closed her eyes, and soon afterwards she passed out again, not releasing her husband from the heavy burden he had to carry. Vicente went on with his wife in his arms. They arrived at the village. It was the day of the market, and the entire village had gathered in one place, buying and selling vegetables, fruits, bread, and meat. There was lots of talking, and children were playing at the town square. It was noisy and crowded, a social setting as enjoyable as the wedding. But then Vicente reached the town square. Everybody looked. They stopped talking. It went from incredibly noisy, with a few hundred voices chit-chatting at the same time, to dead silence. One could hear a leaf fall on the ground, and the soft gush of wind that gave the young hero another push to take one more step was loudly audible. There he was, brown and covered in mud, with ripped clothes, holding his wife with equally murky rags in his hands, and dropping down on the pavement. He was exhausted and had suppressed the starving and thirsty feeling he had felt throughout the trip. He lay down on the ground with his sweetheart next to him, causing the cheerful atmosphere to turn into a dramatic melodrama. Out of his shirt rolled the fire monster's head. People held their breath. They realized how wrongly this truthful integer couple had been treated and how much help they needed. The guilt overcame them. Within minutes, farmers and vendors offered fresh fruits and drinks, aiding the two to get up and regain their energy. "We're sorry," one of the villagers said when the pretty girl and handsome boy opened their eyes. "We misjudged you. We will take care of you, give you new clothes, and help you rebuild your home." "I told you there was a fire monster," Vicente said. "Yeah," Bethany added, "and Mr. Johnston is a big fat liar." Mrs. Johnston was standing behind her. She sighed and put her hand on Bethany's shoulder. "I believe you, young one," she said. "My husband has been showing signs of adulterous behavior for years. I never knew what to think of it. Don't worry, it's none of your business anymore. We know you have been faithful. We will sort the matter out amongst ourselves." "Thank you, Mrs. Johnston," Bethany said. "I knew I could trust you," Vicente said. So what are you waiting for, people? Let's go build that home."